about to hear a revolution in talk radio, Liberty Talk Radio, where the critical thinking will defrag your mind of propaganda-ridden viruses induced by mass media news programming. No BS here, just the facts.
And now we present to you America's quintessential iconoclastic anomaly. Wow. In talk radio, your host, Joe Cristiano.
Welcome, everyone, to Liberty Talk Radio, America's libertarian voice, broadcasting from our studio here in the United States to around the world. I'm your host, Joe Cristiano, and this is your antidote to popular talk radio. Folks, it's time for us to take back control of our government now before this bureaucratic, oversized, and self-serving federal government starves us of our property, our freedom, our rights, and our liberty. But to do this, we must shed conventional thinking regarding our political structure. We need to be revolutionaries in thought, dissidents in action. Only after we recognize what our government is doing to our freedom and our Constitution will we start taking it back. And this program is just about that. Folks, we haven't been on the air for some time. I'm back, and hopefully I'm back on a regular basis. And I do apologize. So many things have happened in my life, including an illness and whatever. But I hope to start the program on a regular basis, at least weekly basis from now on. But today, more importantly, today we have a guest. And our guest is Andy Sutton. He's an economist, formerly of the financial community. However, now he spends his time for the sole purpose of blowing the whistle on corruption and helping people around the globe become their own advocates. And so here he is, Andy Sutton. Let me see if I can press the right button here without losing everyone. Okay, Andy, welcome back to Liberty Talk Radio. It's really exciting to see you here today.
Joe, good to be here. Thank you. I appreciate the invite, and I'm glad that you're getting back on your feet with the radio program, because we need you right now.
I don't know if people need me. They need more people like you. But, well, I had a litany of things that I wanted to discuss, and I realized that I ran out of paper. There are so many items that are just hanging there like raw fruit, the fruit on a tree. You don't know what to pick first. And everything seems to be out of whack. We have our entire continent seems to be out of whack, and not only our own country. Everything from the virus that's going on, everything from trade wars, everything from you name it, from what legislation now that is going through. And we're going to pass a lot of legislation that has nothing to do with the problems that we're facing. It's going to way of sneaking in maybe gun control, or you name the subject. Whatever they want to get done behind our back, I think it'll sneak in with that package. But I almost don't know where to start. Now, obviously, the virus that we're experiencing now, the coronavirus, is the main topic. You can't get away from it anywhere on the major media, on YouTube or wherever, and it appears to be legitimate. But the big concern that I have is that how much of our freedom will we lose as a result of this legislation that's trying to be passed? Because of this virus, in your opinion?
Well, I'm not even going to say the word virus during the whole 20 minutes or so that we're on here tonight, just because this is stuff, you and I have talked about this on the air, off the air, before podcasts, after podcasts. We've written about it over here, and it's the financial crash that's going on. And the first thing I want to say is this was coming, regardless whether there was a or not a it was coming anyway. We were going to get this. So opportunistic, I don't know. We knew for sure last summer already that there was at least, and I'm not going to mention any names because God forbid I slander somebody, and I'm going to behave tonight. Okay. We knew there was at least one major bank in trouble last summer, and it was a big one. One of what's called a globally significant international financial institution. That's all I'm going to say, but we knew there was at least one in trouble, probably more. And you noticed in the fall, we were starting to see a lot of articles about the Federal Reserve doing repos or repurchase agreements for different things. And these were sometimes in the tens, even hundreds of billions of dollars a week. So that ought to give you an idea of the scope and magnitude of what they were trying to, bail out, essentially, without really coming out and saying it. And I think really what happened here is, once again, financial institutions leveraged themselves, just like they did back in 2008. And they got in trouble, just like they did in 2008. And somebody, somewhere, I don't know who it was, made a decision that we're going to try and keep this quiet. And we're going to try and just, do some different things, try to get some counterparties to maybe accept some losses, buy some of this stuff on a temporary / permanent basis amongst the central banks, and try and kind of unwind this thing slowly and see what happened. And that went on for a long period of time, several months. And then all of a sudden, the next thing you know, China is in trouble biologically, and then the whole thing just comes unglued. And so I don't know exactly what happened. Now we got this thing going on, so why don't we just let this unwind big time? Or, like you said, hey, here's an opportunity crisis, and we don't let those go to waste. So let's use it to pass legislation. You're talking multi-trillions of dollars of bailout money that are going to be going to who knows who before this is all over. I mean, we're sitting here on the 24th of March. It hasn't been decided yet. The video is frozen, but I'm going to keep talking.
Okay.
So we have not. We don't know the particular.
Just lost the vocal also. I don't know if you can hear me, but
bailouts of airlines, they're demanding it. The hospitality industry wants a bailout. I mean, everybody wants a bailout.
Right.
So this isn't just the financial sector that got hit back in 2008. Now the tentacles are into the real economy as well, even more than they were in 2008.
Yeah.
And there was an article here the other day that was kind of headlining there for a while, saying that this event that's been going on has really shown bare the financial irresponsibility of Americans. So they were actually blaming the American people, which is partially true. When you look at the numbers about what people have for savings, what percentage of the population has even $1,000 saved for an emergency. I mean, it's frightening when you start talking to people. And I actually think those numbers are fairly close to the truth, just because of the number of people I talk to and things I hear. It leads me to believe that those numbers are fairly accurate. So now what happens? So now somebody gets laid off for a couple of weeks. Well, yeah, there's unemployment insurance and all that kind of stuff. But now you have this emergency. And we have 40, 45, maybe upwards of 50% of the population that's not prepared to even withstand $1,000 emergency. And losing a job, even if it's for only a few weeks or a month, this is going to really put a dent in what people are able to do, just because we rely so heavily on credit.
Right.
And one of the things that's been talked about with this bill that's flying through is mortgage forgiveness, student loan debt forgiveness. They want to forgive all this debt. Okay, that's great. So who's going to take the loss? Who's holding those bonds that all those student loans have been rolled into?
But that's not fair, because I'll tell you that's not fair, because I took a scoop of ice cream out of the refrigerator the other day, and my wife has never forgiven me for that. And if she can't forgive me for that, well, how the heck can we forget all these people? Yeah, really, I'm being, yeah, just a joke, but But to me, people go into these things blind. Where are the parents of these students who are applying for loans that they know? I mean, they're lucky to get a job. If they get a job, they rarely make the amount of money they anticipate to make. And then some of them actually graduate, and then they have almost six-figure loan debt. It's just absolutely. I come from a time. Look, I'm in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be 77 years old. So I remember the good old days. And hey, I'm a street kid from Harlem. I lived in an apartment. My mother would give me 61 cents to go to Morris's grocery store downstairs, And I mean 61 cents. I mean, if I spent 62 cents, death, I mean, what happened to those days where, I mean, literally we counted, I'm not kidding, we counted pennies. And I always grew up that way. And to this day, people say, why don't you spend your money, enjoy yourself, go on cruises? I'm still 77 years old. I'm still saving my money for a rainy day. Well, I'm sorry for the diatribe and interrupting you, but there seems to be, you're right, there seems to be a tremendous mentality shift from people of my era and before and even after to the young people. My youngest son makes phenomenal money. He's an engineer, and his wife works for the government. And they both have good salaries. I hate to ask them, but I'll bet you dollars to donuts that they're broke. Anyway.
See, that's the thing. You hit the nail on the head. There was a culture shift.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to a point, and my group. I mean, I'm coming up on 50. My generation, age group, whatever. We were told. I mean, where I lived, we were told. Our thinking was, we'll go to work in a steel mill. That was our plan. Our plan A. Well, my dad, smartest guy I know, pretty much, when it comes to this stuff, that never spent a day in a college classroom. He's like, no, that's not going to work. Don't do that because it's not going to be there. And he ended up being right. So my age group, we went to college because that's what you were supposed to do.
Right. I was forced to go to college.
There was all the numbers that backed it up and all that other stuff.
Right.
And I was lucky. I was very fortunate. I got a good job coming out of school, and I kind of grew up the way you did. I mean, if we had, we would go out to dinner once in a while. But if we didn't have, man, everybody ate tomato sandwiches. That's just how it was.
Exactly what we did.
Nobody borrowed. Nobody borrowed. They didn't even have credit cards.
Yeah.
I grew up in an age where I was probably 14, 15 by the time stores started giving out store cards, where you could buy stuff just from that store,
right,
and basically run a tab and you'd pay a level of interest. My parents never borrowed for stuff like that. So, I mean, I guess it was just ingrained in me not to do that. So I got out of college. I got a very good job. Like I said, I was very lucky. And I paid my loans off. And then I went and, all right, what's going to happen next? Well, we just kept doing this, and we kept sending kids to school, and hammering on them, and it caused a number of problems. The first big problem is there is still a lot of manufacturing in this country, and a lot of those companies, particularly in this area, they can't find skilled workers. So there's good paying jobs in right here. And I live in the middle of rural central western Pennsylvania, and there's a lot of very good jobs here for somebody who wants to be able to work, show up on time, keep off the phone, this kind of thing. So we're losing that, and that's costing us. The second thing is we have people that, all right, so-and-so wants to be, I don't know, whatever. And they're going to the most expensive schools where they could get the degree for half that money, and it wouldn't make a difference where they got it from. Like me, I'll use myself. I got an MBA. If I wanted to go work on Wall Street, I would have had to go to, Wharton down in Philadelphia, or maybe Northwestern or Stanford or someplace like that. Well, I didn't want to do that. So I went the cheaper route and got the same degree, read the same books, had some of the same professors even, and I did it for probably 20% of the price. So that's what people have to be looking at with regards to this college thing. And we're hammering this into the kids. If you want to go to college, that's great. You don't go there to find yourself anymore. You can't afford it.
Yeah.
You can't do it. If you know what you want to do, that's great. Let's sit down. Let's look at the job outlook. Let's see what the wages are. Let's see how much it's going to cost to get the degree. Let's see if it matters where we get the degree. In other words, let's not do it impulsively. Yeah. And that's what our country, unfortunately, when it comes to finances, has become about. We are very impulsive. And the first impulse that we have is to spend money. I will evidence what's going on right now as Exhibit A of my case. What's the first thing Congress wants to do? Spend money. Right. They don't even have it.
Right.
They're the worst debt junkie on the planet.
Absolutely.
And they don't have it. And they just, $2 trillion? No problem. 3 trillion, 5 trillion, 10 trillion. It's lost upon these individuals. We have totally lost touch with any semblance of fiscal behavior. And it's frightening. And you see what the Fed came out the other day and said, well, we're going to pledge up to $4 trillion. That's 4 times what the national debt was in 1986.
Right.
When we hit $1 trillion in 1986, the people were so outraged that Congress actually passed a bill. You probably remember this. It was called the Graham-Rudman Act.
That's right.
Remember that?
Yep. Right.
The balanced budget?
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember that?
Yeah. Very successful, weren't they?
yeah. Great job. What happened? Now, but let's fast forward here. 34 years, and $1 trillion is nothing. 2 trillion, nothing. Doesn't even faze people anymore. Our mind doesn't even have the ability to fathom what $1 trillion is.
Yeah.
What it looks like.
Yeah.
People come out with these examples. Well, if you stack dollar bills on top of each other, $1 trillion will go all the way to, Planet Jabip and back. Okay, that's great. And we're just burning through them. We're just burning through those stacks like nobody's business. And that is the first thing the airlines want to bail out. The hotels want to bail out. Everybody is looking for a bit. This is dangerous. This is going to end the dollar. I'm telling you. If they do this, you've got countries like China and Russia. And I know everybody hates China and Russia. But I'm going to tell you what. They were smart in some ways. Not in every way. Yep. They got their problems too. They've been buying gold by the ton.
Right.
The ton.
Exactly. Right.
For the last 10 or 15 years.
Right.
Either one of them will come out tomorrow and launch a gold-backed currency and
Absolutely.
Put the dollar out of business.
Yeah, I mentioned that just the other day in a conversation I had with someone. Yeah.
And they probably looked at you like you had 12 heads.
What makes it particularly difficult for me is the period of time that I was going to school. Everything was different. I graduated from Pace University, excellent school, down in Wall Street. I should have got a job on Wall Street. Why I didn't do it, because I didn't know what I was doing. But I did get a job. My very first job was I was a sales promotion and advertising coordinator for all of the AMC stores. I mean, we're talking about Bloomingdale's, Macy's, and places like that, or for all their private brand merchandise. In fact, I worked directly with the first Marlboro man. Oh, no, I think it was the second Marlboro man. I wasn't sure if it was the first or the second Marlboro man, but it was a Marlboro man that had just retired, and he was doing, promotional work and stuff like that. And I worked with him. Now, I had this job, 1440 Broadway, at the time the most expensive real estate on the planet, right? Do you know what my salary was? You won't believe this when I tell you this. I can tell you exactly how much I have.
$326 a year.
$326.50 a month. But isn't that amazing? Yeah, every time I think this, I go like this. What was I think? But it was a fabulous job, and the only reason why I quit is that the Marlboro man was an impossible guy to work for. I mean, all the copywriters, all of the package guys, all the advertising, everyone quit when he came in because he was such a tough guy to work with. I held on the longest, and eventually I gave up because I couldn't even talk to the guy. and he had connections upstairs and stuff like that. So he was a holy grail type thing. Anyway, but my point being is that I'm accustomed to $326.50 a month, you know. Oh, and by the way, with that salary, I put $5 a month away in my savings account at the dollar savings bank, you know. So I only say that not to impress anybody, but this is my mentality, and it hasn't changed. You know, here I am going on 77. Hasn't changed a bit. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. And you were able to live on that, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well,
so
I was married at the time. My wife had a job too, so we put it together. But you know, the rent was $75 a month. We lived on Leland. Yeah, we lived in the Bronx. I had to take the train to downtown. I lived in the Bronx, you know, on Leland Avenue, you know. But everything was relatively inexpensive. But I'm telling you, a penny was worth something. I mean, we watched pennies.
Yeah.
Anyway, but
yeah,
I didn't want to bore you with that.
No, you're not boring me at all. The reason I ask you that is there's probably going to be a bunch of high school kids that watch, because right now they're all stuck at home because we can't go to school because of what's going on.
Yeah.
So they're probably going to end up watching this, and that's why I asked, could you live on $326 a month? Yeah, you could. And that is a perfect illustration of inflation right there.
Yeah.
$326 a month today, you don't even get a car payment in for that much.
Oh, right.
Let alone living.
Absolutely.
Oh, wait, you probably didn't have a car payment, did you? You probably
no, we had we went without a car for a long period of time.
There you go. We didn't have car loans. Yeah.
But it was strange is that people said, did you go to the movies? With what? You didn't go to the movies, you didn't have the money. And when I lived in Harlem, I used to go to the Interborough Theater. That was the inexpensive theater. The Grand Theater was the expensive one. That was 5 cents more per movie, you know. And we used to go there for, I think it was like 25 cents. We spent the whole afternoon there. But things have changed so dramatically, and they were relatively inexpensive back then. But people today are not making proportionally as much money as I'm making today. A lot of them aren't.
No.
But yet they'll go to college and they have no problem. No problem. I've spoken to 100 young fellows like this. They have no problem going to college, having a $48,000 loan, have no idea how they're going to pay for it, but they have no problem with it. But I'm not my one or two people, you know. I mean, they're all in that position. I can't tell you how many people I know. My son's friends are all in that position. Now, my son, what he did is he went to college. I said, hey, you know, you want to go to college, you got to pay for that, you know, most of it. And we helped him, but he paid most of it. And when he got to a point where he couldn't afford it anymore, he quit, you know. Well, he's doing very well for himself anyway, you know. He's a really industrious kid. And but we don't do that anymore today. It seems like the whole world. I go back to our country. We say we're going to, you know, print all this money. We haven't paid off our debt. Where's the money coming from? Do you see hyperinflation? Do you see a devaluation of the dollar?
Well, the dollar's been devalued, and that's kind of where I was going to when I was talking about the $326 a month versus what it takes to live now. So I mean, that's your first. I mean, that's a huge devaluation. The Federal Reserve readily admits that they've squandered almost 98% of the dollar's value since they took stewardship over it in 1913. They don't have any problem hiding that, and I can tell you why. Because the world has become convinced that you need inflation to have economic growth, which is a total lie, and it's a lie that was sold to the world during the Depression. Wealth of nations, you don't have to go any further than that. That whole situation there, and we've been riding the coattails of Keynesianism this whole way through. Now, does that explain all the profligate spending? No. I mean, basically what Keynes said, if you have a business cycle that goes in the tank, just, you know, the government should spend money to bring it out of the tank. I mean, that's the essence of Keynesianism. It never asked the question, how'd the business cycle get into the tank to begin with?
Yeah. Good point.
That's the question that needs to be asked. Nobody asked that question. So with this Joe, honestly, it feels like I got into a time machine and went back to September of 2008. That's what it feels like.
That's right. Exactly.
Looking at the whiplash that's going on. Today, the Dow had its biggest increase in history. Big whoop! It already lost 35% of its value. In what, a month? I mean, this is you never saw this. There was a day or a 2-day stretch last week when the entire yield curve from 30 days to 30 years was under 1%. We've seen massive jumps in yields, up, downs. There is no way. And you talk about this, you talk about inflation. Think about that massive pile of credit derivatives that's floating out there. A lot of those are interest rate swaps. There is no possible way that we've had the move in interest rates that we've had globally over the past year without a major bank in every G20 country hitting the mat. And that's what I think was being swept under the rug this past fall with all these repurchases. Now, if Mr. Powell wants to disagree, I would gladly invite him to give me a call and he can set me straight on that matter. Where did he get all this money to buy all these junky assets? He doesn't have any money. Oh, wait, he just punched it up on a keyboard here, like so.
Right.
I want to make $1 trillion for myself. Here we go. Boom. $1, 12, 0. Boom. Got it. I'm a trillionaire. What? These people think they can print capital. You can't print capital. And it's biting them. And it's going to bite hard. The average person is realizing right now that you can't print capital. You can't borrow it either. Well, I can take my card and swipe it as much as I want until I hit the limit. That's not capital. That's debt. We have duped ourselves. We have duped ourselves into thinking that we can borrow and spend our way to prosperity.
Right.
And the only place we're going to borrow and spend ourselves is into the dustbin of history.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, that's the only thing that this is going to come out of.
I can't see this play out in a very favorable manner at all.
No.
I see this just corrupting everything that we've ever held dear. I can see the Constitution flying out the window, in the water, on the bottom, forgotten forever. Well, it's forgotten anyway. They never refer to the Constitution. Although they take an oath to abide by it, then they get into office and they lie. They lie when they get into office. Before they get into office, they lie. And that's what pisses me off, is that, if you take the oath to defend the Constitution, don't get into office and then start printing money. There's nothing in the Constitution that said you're allowed to print money, It just seems that the whole system is so corrupt. I don't know how it's going to play out. It's not going to be pretty. A lot of people are going to suffer, including me, blah, 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 and the whole bit. I'm not going to escape this. I know this. I mean, I may be, because I'm a little bit prepared, I may suffer a little bit less than some other people and more than others. But our school system is a thing that really bothers me. I know people who teach in school, and I ask them these questions, and usually they get angry or they cry. If it's a woman, they cry. I go, what are you crying for? What are you asking me those questions for? I said, I'm just curious. How do we get where we are? It starts in the school system, and I can't get school teachers even to talk about this subject.
Well, I'm talking about it, so I guess that's a start, right?
That's why you're on. That's why you're on Liberty Talk Radio.
There we go.
Yeah, but I can't. I take my dogs to the dog park, and a lot of the people are there when I go in late in the afternoon. It's school teachers, because they get out at 3, 4 o'clock, something like that, and they bring their dogs over. And when I meet somebody, I say, "What do you do?" I'm a teacher. I keep my mouth shut. I ask no questions. I have no dialogue, no nothing, because I'm always afraid I'm going to say something and they're going to get angry or cry. It's happened too often.
And that it is a shame. I mean, it's a system, and like any system, you can have a system that's chock full of great people, and the system as a whole can still not function the way it's supposed to. because of just various factors that are involved. I try not to get too wound up in that. I look at it this way. I've got 16 kids right now that are interested in talking about business and learning about business. And we had been studying contracts, and I'm sure that they're cringing if they're listening. We have been talking about contracts, but then all of this started, and it's kind of, this is business right here. What's going on? This is going to affect everybody.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to walk between unless you're never mind. People like us are not going to walk between the raindrops on it. We're not going to get a bailout. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Well, we're about running out of the time that you wanted to spend on there. Yep. And how do you think this thing is going to play out? What is your guesstimation, your projection, your whatever? How do you how are we going to survive? I don't see how we're going to survive this thing. I can just see everything getting worse, and but I don't know what's
going to happen. I think this week there's going to be a bailout bill.
Yeah, that's guaranteed.
The markets are going to like that. The markets liked it today, and they didn't even pass anything yet. They didn't even agree on anything.
Yeah,
they're fighting over who's going to get the biggest chunk of the money that we really don't have. Imagine that.
Right. Yeah.
So I think we're going to get a bailout bill this week. It's not going to be enough. They don't understand what happens when you shut down this much of an economy, even if it is based on debt. The amount of activity that is not going on right now. That's right. I'm not sure. I'm quite sure that I don't grasp it either, just because I think it's like one of those things. It's like, how far does $1 trillion go? I'm not sure anybody can really grasp this. I can tell you this much. The Federal Reserve, on a separate thread, pledged $4 trillion to buy up whatever sour assets there happen to be. And that raises another really good question, which we can answer next time. What are all these sour assets? Now, I know what they are, but nobody's talking about that yet. And I think a lot of guys like me, they know what they are also, and hopefully that starts becoming something that people talk about. So they promised $4 trillion. The markets didn't even blink, continued to sell off. Then Sunday night, the Fed said, we'll buy everything, unconditionally, unlimited amounts. We will buy it all. We will buy everything from treasury debt to municipal bonds to mortgage-backed securities. So, I don't know, rubber dog biscuits out of Hong Kong. They're going to buy it all. That's what they said. We're going to buy it all.
With what?
So yeah, exactly. That's
always my question.
Yeah, this is leaving the dollar wide open for attack.
Yeah. Financially,
economically. That's what this is going to do. It's like, think of Star Wars. They're taking fire and the shields are repelling some of it and all that. This is basically like hitting the red button that says shields off.
Yeah.
And hitting it. The shields are off.
Yeah.
They do this. And they're going to do it because they don't know what to do anything else. It's like they're programmed. The Congress, we have to spend. We have to spend. We can't not spend. They don't know what else to do.
Right.
We have to bail it out. It's too big to fail, and we can't put anybody in jail.
Right. Just before we leave, I need your opinion. How do we maintain ourselves as a world's reserve currency under this scenario? I see it going bye-bye, and if it does go bye-bye, who takes over? It almost seems like Russia's in a better position to take over that position than we are today, because they've been increasing their gold reserves. They've been very conservative in the way they've been treating their currency, and they're doing quite well, believe it or not, in many ways. There was a fellow that I know that went to Russia recently, and he says, "Hey, it's people are really nice there. They're very friendly. Things are going pretty well, compared to what we're doing here, which surprised the heck out of me, But where do you think, what about this loss of the world's reserve currency status? You think that'll happen?
That's already been going away slowly. And there was a lot of disinformation sowed by newsletter writers that led people to believe that this was going to be an overnight event, the loss of the reserve currency status. The Bretton Woods is over. So, and anybody who doesn't know what that is, they can shoot me an email from the website. Bretton Woods is done. We've been in this petrodollar age since 1971 now, and what's been happening over the last couple of years is you're seeing countries increasingly cutting deals for different types of trade, using something other than the dollar. So this lowers the amount of dollars that they need to keep in their forex reserves, which places downward pressure on the value of the dollar. So this is a gradual process. It doesn't happen overnight, except there's only a couple of really, really, really bad circumstances where that would happen suddenly. But it's been a very slow process. This is going to speed that up. Countries are not going to sit back and, you know what, we're just going to let them fleece us. And that's basically what's happening. You and me, we're in the same boat as everybody else. We're getting fleeced by this system too. It's not like we're benefiting from it. You look at the average family and the amount of debt they carry to maintain a standard of living now. I mean, it's ridiculous. Yeah. It's absolutely insane. So, it's not like the American people are benefiting from this dollar hegemony. Foreigners certainly aren't benefiting from it. So, yeah, it's going to accelerate. There might be a big move. I don't know. It depends what happens here, I think, over the next couple of months. Yeah. But, yeah, we're going to keep losing that status. I'm not a big fan of timelines. I don't see how we hold it another 5 years, though. I really don't.
Yeah, 5 years to me, it sounds like a stretch at least. I don't know, but it just sounds like a stretch. The way it goes.
And I'm being conservative. You know what? And if it lasts 5 years in a day, I'll have a full inbox saying, you were wrong. That's the way it goes. But I just don't see us making it another 5 years.
I agree.
As the premier world's currency. I just don't see it.
Right.
Not the way things are happening.
Yeah. Well, Andy, we've exhausted our time or used up our time, however you want to look at it. And I want to thank you so much for coming with me today on this journey of in discovering what is going on in the world and talking about it. I do hope we can do this on a regular basis.
Sounds good. Okay. I will tell you. I will tell you that there are some good things coming of this. People are starting to get to know their neighbors again.
That's right.
People are cooperating with each other and helping each other out. This is not all bad. This is one of those things. It does have a silver lining. So I want to leave on a higher note.
Okay, very good. Okay, very good, Andy. Well, hope to speak to you soon, and we'll arrange for another broadcast in the near future, okay?
Okay, sounds great. Thanks for having me on again.
Thank you so much.
My guys in Philadelphia, roll tide.
Okay, bye-bye now. Okay, folks, this is the end of today's broadcast. We'd like to thank our sponsors for their financial support. I'd like to thank you for listening in. You can further the cause of liberty by recommending this program to your friends, and of course, let us hear from you. Our email address is comments@libertytalkradio.com. And as my wife would say, stay tuned, okay?
You're about to hear a revolution in talk radio.
Good from my perspective.
All right.